And how did your practice go just now?
Hi, Cedric.
Hey,
So, practice went well, but I'm a bit ashamed to admit that even though it's the middle of the day here, I was starting to feel a bit sleepy.
well, that's fine.
Is there a technique to help prevent
Yes.
that?
Okay. You can meditate with your eyes open. You can also stand up and meditate. Um, you can also do walking meditation. To be clear, walking meditation, and we'll get much more deeply into it in weeks to come, is formal practice and is every bit as valuable as seated meditation. You can go drink some ice water, brush water, put water in your face. Or another thing, really high level technique, you can take a nap because you might need it.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure. It's a very, very common report. So don't think it's a problem. And then, you can try noting the tiredness, like really lean into the tiredness, see if you can muster as much curiosity into the actual feeling of tiredness and note feel for feeling the tiredness. Okay.
I can ask something.
Sure.
How important is the actual posture where we are trying to meditate? Can we meditate while sitting in a chair or in a sofa or walking? Or should we invest some time in trying to learn more formal meditation postures?
This is a fantastic question, Alan. So let me give you different answers. Let me give you a few answers. One is there is absolutely something special about the formal seated posture where you sit up straight. And even if you can do full lotus, which probably none of you can or a few of you can, that's even better. But there's something special about sitting up straight in this way. And I would say that it's the single best meditation technique. However, even better than that is to do multiple meditation techniques. Like Namgyal Rinpoche, a famous Canadian Buddhist master, said that if you meditate in all four traditional canonical postures of sitting, standing, walking, and lying down, you awaken more quickly. So actually, you should meditate in as many postures as you can. So meditate lying down, meditate seated, meditate walking, meditate in a formal standing posture, which you can do. It's very similar to the seated posture. But yes, I would advise that you learn to sit correctly and with an upright posture. But it is okay to sit in a regular chair and slumping back. It's just the quality of attention is not as good. Did that speak to your question, Alan?
Yes, and just one tip for everybody who's just beginning this. Do not ever try to meditate in bed. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I would actually, generally it is a problem because you can fall asleep, but if you can figure out how to do a lying down posture of meditation, it's very good, maybe on the floor. So, yep. Okay, good. Let's see, there's one or two questions. Okay, Janik, you said, or Yannick, I accidentally tuned in an hour late. Is there a possible to get a recording? So I'll send out a recording on my YouTube channel. It'll be on there in 2 days, and you can just look up my name on YouTube, and I'm the first result when you Google Cedric. Also, incidentally, there are other places where I explain the See, Hear, Feel practice on my YouTube channel, so you can go and find it there. Very good. Okay, Steve says, with eyes closed, I note a blank screen, but it's not really a solid black screen. I notice the varying static on the inner screen or some light coming through the eyelids. Which of these is see in, out, or rest? I think all of those are see in, right? That's kind of more it's like, well, actually, you know what? Frankly, I'm confused about, like, if you actually see the backs of your eyelids, if that's in or out. Frankly, it doesn't really matter. But if it's more like an image thought, that's definitely in. And then it has restful components. So, Steve, it's not like it is one thing or the other. Like, is it rest? Is it not rest? Well, it's somewhat restful and it's somewhat active. But what does matter is if you pay attention, and like, it's interesting, like the act of paying attention is meditation. What you observe, what actually happens, doesn't matter very much. But that you do observe and that you are kind of attentive and curious about your practice, that's what really matters. I hope that spoke to your question. Lana?
Hey, Cedric. Cedric, I have a quick question.
Please.
I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about, you said you recommend 30 minutes for the week or for each day of the week. I was just wondering, comparing doing it all at once or doing it at like 10-minute intervals or something like that.
Fantastic. Okay, so if I were pressed on the matter, I would say do it all at once. But that might be difficult. And it might be easier for you to just do 15 minutes right at the very beginning of your day and 15 minutes right at the end of your day. In a sense, let me say this, that what matters with meditation is that you do it. That's the trick. You got to do it. So if you need to come up with all sorts of weird and ridiculous ways to manipulate yourself and manipulate your environment so you get the meditation done, then do it. Be completely mercenary about figuring out how it needs to work in your life to make it happen. Also, the 10 minutes 3 times a day could also work. Also, I'll say this, that if you just need to work up to it, if you need to do like 5 minutes today, 5 minutes tomorrow, then move up to 10 minutes and then get to 30 minutes by the end of the week, great. What matters is that you're moving in that direction. And also, just because you've not done your practice perfectly does not mean you shouldn't come to class next week. Come to class, do your best, and it's going to be one of the biggest lessons about meditation is a total mess, like everything in life. So just stay with it.
Great, thanks.
Sure. Okay, Lana says, is it in general like a mental noting or more like a feeling noting? Okay, Lana, I don't know what your question means. Could you clarify that? I'll answer Bo's question while you're getting your clarification ready. Okay, so Bo says, I experience some hear in and see in feelings which were linked. I made an attempt to split them, but it was unsuccessful. Well, this is not actually a question, but some feedback on an interesting experience. Great, and to be clear, that's actually an insight. You've had an insight. Nothing is perfectly differentiated from anything else in our experience. And that is part of the insight of no self, is that if there's no clear boundary, there's also no clear essence and no clear point where it's like, oh, this is the one thing and it's totally separate from the other. Everything's kind of mixed up on some level. So I think actually you're having an insight already. So that's great, actually. All right, any other questions coming in? Okay, well, here's one from Reed. I've seen noting practice instructions to note with a word describing the sensation. Why did Shinzen go with just see, hear, feel? Okay, so let me say this. So the other kind of noting where you just use any kind of word is more like Mahasi style noting. I prefer Mahasi style noting, but this is a unified mindfulness course, so I'm teaching Shinzen's way of noting. Also, Shinzen's way of noting, because it's so modular and like kind of systematic, it's a really good system to teach. But then once you learn it, then you go and modify it. And so I think it's perfectly. So let me just, I'll actually give you this instruction. So let me just, in like a paragraph, teach you how to do the Mahasi style. So the Mahasi is just like Shinzen Young noting, and it is fine to do this instead of the Shinzen Young noting, but it just goes like this. Feeling, seeing, tensing, interest, allowing, enjoyment, bliss, smiling, enjoyment, allowing, tension, straightening, allowing, feeling. And so it's just more of kind of a broader vocabulary, more of a natural vocabulary. And it's simply, you just fill in the sentence, there is. Like there is seeing, there is feeling, there is tension, there is looking, there is tension, right? So actually either way is fine. I actually prefer the Mahasi method, but again, Shinzen Young's system is really awesome and it totally works. And I don't really know how to answer your question as to why he kind of recommends these 3 notes. I don't really know. Okay, good. Steve asked, my AC is running loudly, but for a moment I was aware of Cedric not speaking. Is that here, rest? Yeah, sure, totally, right? Yeah. Like if the absence or the relative absence of a sensory event is feel rest. Again, I mean, rather it is rest. So it could be like C rest. So like, everybody close your eyes and then allow for nothing to be there for a moment. And that's more like C rest. And then now like bring your attention to listening and notice how there's not much happening. So that's here rest. So again, it's just a way of training. But again, there's a full class on that later on in class. Okay, any other questions before we wrap things up?
This question isn't about the practice per se, but just overall. So since you mentioned that it's possible to meditate while walking and doing other activities, is it possible to be mindful while doing mental activities, while you're studying or something like that?
Yes, it is, but it's just a lot harder. When you really get developed, you can like, write a sentence and be mindful of it, or like have a conversation and you can like hear yourself talking. You can really hear in a mindful way the other person engaging. And like, I think Shinzen Young talks about like really the high level end of mindfulness is like, you can be mindful if you're getting like yelled at and maybe even yelling back, or like maybe in a physical fight. But yeah, as the mindfulness skills develop, you can be mindful in any activity, but it takes a while to get there.
And is that considered a formal practice? If you're good enough to do it, is that a sort of practice as you're doing it, like you're practicing all the time?
I would call that informal practice. And then the way that informal versus formal practice is differentiated is formal practice in Shinzen Young's system is 10 minutes or more of focused practice where your primary focus and the majority of your attention is going into the meditation. And then micro hits, which is a form of informal practice, would be that same thing where your primary focus of attention is on the meditation, but it's for less than 10 minutes. And then there's another idea of background practice where, for example, maybe you're getting yelled at by your boss and maybe most of your attention is on what your boss is saying, but then there's a little bit of background mindfulness saying, oh, okay, I should probably stay calm, and okay, I should allow this person to do their thing, and then maybe make it a point to respond skillfully. So you're kind of maintaining actually mentalization and you're maintaining mindfulness at that moment. Okay, did that speak to your question?
Yes, it did. Okay, thank you for that.
Sure, gladly. Okay, great. Anything else before we wrap it up? Okay, good.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I was just wondering if we should actually meditate while we go to sleep, and is it a good practice to meditate to sleep?
Okay, this is a fantastic question. I think it's highly, highly recommended. What you can do, and this is slightly outside of the purview of the class. You can you can like lie down, and then for like 5 minutes that it takes you to go to bed, or however long, do your noting practice. So just note, like, feel, hear, see, etc. Right? And then what you can do is you can say to yourself, I set the intention to be aware that I'm dreaming while I'm dreaming. I set the intention to be aware that I'm dreaming while I'm dreaming. You say that 3 times, and then you try to hold consciousness into sleep. And then if you keep doing that, you start, having more lucid dreams, etc. It's highly recommended.
Yeah, I mean, lucid dreaming, is it a spiritual practice that you do as well?
Yeah, I try to. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I see. Yeah, it sounds like a whole exciting ball game.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, okay. Well, just one last time. Is there anything else? Any other pressing questions?
I just wanted to say thank you for doing this, and good luck with everybody in their practice.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, thank you. So, okay, great. We'll wrap it up at that point. Remember, 30 minutes of practice every day. Also, do a little bit of walking meditation, just using your see, hear, feel. Do your micro hits, and then remember to join that Telegram group. And if you want, you can find an accountability buddy, or even set up a thing where you meditate with others. So, yeah, okay. Thank you all.